Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City of Cedar Falls City Council meeting for Monday, November 18th. I'll now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz. Cruz.
Good.
Hallbaker.
He actually dropped off. Go ahead.
Ganfield. Chrisman.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Councilmember Ganfield absent, and
And Hawbaker, currently. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to the Pledge of Allegiance. If willing and able, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And Councilmember Hawbaker is back with us online. And give me some, I apologize in advance. I've been doing a chest cold and everything all weekend, so if I start to lose my voice, thanks for bearing with me. All right, we'll look for a motion to approve regular meeting minutes of November 4th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second, and any discussion? Any discussion from the public? All right, seeing none, voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Special presentations, I do have a quick comment I wanted to make. As many of you know, in the last several months, we've had a few instances of hate crime in Cedar Falls that I sent out a public response to a ways back, speaking to some graffiti, several flyers that had been placed in our libraries and around town. We made several arrests for those previous incidents, but most recently, in the last few weeks, we've also seen some white nationalist stickers and flyers distributed around Cedar Falls, Waterloo. I've heard concerns from some of our residents and community members, especially those who may have been directly targeted by some of the messages. So I want to take a second quickly tonight to speak to some of those concerns or reiterate that as a city, we are committed to recognizing and celebrating the significant contributions of all our neighbors and community members. Whether native-born or immigrant, of every color, race, religion, and belief, we take each of these incidents very seriously and will continue to uphold the law to protect against any discrimination on the basis of age, disability, race, religion, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation, no matter the form. If anyone finds or is confronted with any incident of hate crime, speaking to the public, discrimination, or other similar human rights concerns, please don't hesitate to contact our Public Safety Department, the 911 Dispatch Center, to report it so that we can be aware of it and that we can address it directly. And also, you can reach out to the Cedar Falls Human Rights Commission. I know they've been very active in this conversation, or as well to us as elected representatives to make sure that we're addressing your concerns. And thank you to all those who work tirelessly to combat hate and discrimination in all forms in our community. So, with that, we'll move to public forum. So speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak tonight? Just name and address, please.
Dennis Bruckler, 2221 Center Street here in Cedar Falls. Spoken a few times here before. I just tonight want to briefly talk about a few of the benefits that our community could gain from opening up the side channels that we already have. What we have right now is the Cedar River flows through Cedar Falls and never enters these side channels. There's almost 5,000 square miles of farmland north of us. That's 5,000 square miles of farms with farmers putting nitrates on those fields. They're spending millions of dollars on nitrates, probably millions of dollars, a smaller portion, but millions of dollars floats right by us every year in the river. That's actually a resource for us. Communities like Cedar Rapids and down the Mississippi are spending millions to remove those nitrates. We have the opportunity to use them as an asset instead of being a pollutant that costs millions of dollars. We can use that fertilizer to grow in abundance in these wetlands and side channels that we have in our community. These Side channels are currently water and nutrient starved. There's very little growth in them. If we fed water from the Cedar back into these, we would not only create miles of water trails and recreational opportunities, but we would remove lots of nitrates in those wetlands and side channels and provide an abundant habitat. The plant life that it would grow in the waterways would feed fish. Many species of fish prefer to spawn, this is according to the DNR, prefer to spawn in side channels and backwaters. And they have a much higher success rate in their spawning if they have plants and that backwater environment for the young to grow. It would totally improve fishing, it would improve wildlife habitat, frogs and everything, you know, turtles, everything would thrive in that environment with the nutrients from the river. The pollutant to most people could be our strength, and I believe we should build on our strengths, and this is one of them that very few people realize is even there. It kind of flows under the radar. We often have the mistaken belief that, for example, that dams are bad. But the Iowa DNR, in their manual on dam hazards and how to mitigate dam hazards, states point blank, not all dams are bad. You'd have to view them in context of the community and the environment around them. I believe Cedar Falls is one of those exceptions where the dam can be used very beneficially. It can funnel, it can be used to regulate and maintain a steady supply of water in these wetlands and side channels that would make it an attractive tourist destination and make it very beneficial for wildlife and for the environment downstream and for the farmers upstream who are facing the challenge of trying to reduce the nitrates. We can help them out a little bit. And there's millions of dollars being funneled into projects that do that. The Army Corps just, in the last week or two, got approval of a program. I don't recall the name of it, but it's essentially to expedite communities for doing urban waterway development, just like I'm talking about. And they're doing everything to minimize the regulations. I can, if anybody wants, I can look up the name of the new thing. It's in the pipe. It's new regulations in the pipeline, but it's meant to cut costs and expedite doing just what I have been talking about. And they want it to happen. FEMA, EPA, they're all trying to encourage this type of growth. I thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Ms. Sparkler. Anyone else for a public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to staff updates. Director Sharkey, I think we have a few.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I wanted to give a few different updates. The first being with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up next week, the refuse garbage collection schedule. So with City Hall being closed on Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th, collection for normal residents on the Thursday route will be Tuesday, November 26th. And residents on normal collection for Friday will be picked up Wednesday of next week. The other couple updates are construction related, major construction projects, and when the corridors will be fully open to traffic. So Main Street, we're looking like between 12th and 14th, we'll have open by late next week. And then the full corridor of Main Street, which the remaining part will be 14th till 17th, that'll be open by December 13th, the second week in December. Highway 58 in Ridgeway, that is a DOT project. We're looking like fully open to traffic on December 20th.
All right, thank you, Director. We'll move to special order of business. Item number 2, a public hearing to consider entering into an agreement for private development with Ballos LLC. We have a motion to receive and file proof of publication and notice of hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded, and any discussion? Any from the public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Any written communications, Madam Clerk?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and then we've got staff comments from Ron.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'll step in for Shane this evening. So what you have before you is an agreement that staff's been working on with Jamie Fettketter on an agreement to renovate the current building located at 109 East 2nd Street in downtown Cedar Falls. Some of you may know this, formerly known as The Space. Mr. Fettketter recently purchased the building and has started work to renovate the first floor for new commercial space and the second floor for new residential dwelling unit. For this project, the developer anticipates a minimum investment of $400,000 to renovate the building with plans to complete the project in early 2025. The property is located in the downtown urban renewal area, and the project is eligible for 100% of the tax rebate increased taxable valuation that the project creates for a 10-year time period, which is an increase from the previous 5-year time frame that recently the council discussed. So this agreement was originally scheduled to come before the city council in August. However, as staff and the applicant were aware that we were talking about upgrading the incentives, we decided to pull that and wait. And so one thing I'd like to point out is you have before you a slight adjustment than what was in the packet. In section 8.1, we've slightly modified that to remove the maximum rebate amount. This was something that was left over from that August meeting, and so the new agreement is in front of you. The staff and the applicant have both reviewed the application and the agreement, and city staff would recommend approval for the agreement. And I can answer any questions, but I know the applicant Jamie Fettketter, is here, and he'd like to say a couple words.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. And with that, we'll move to public comment if you'd like to.
Thanks.
Name and address, please.
Council, thank you. Jamie Fettketter, 109 East 2nd Street, owner. My wife's here, Candace, who's an owner with me, so I want to make sure that's clear. I just want to say thank you for everyone who's helped us in this process with the dilapidated building that we had. A number of staff members have been very helpful in that process to work through the issues that were relevant in the building. Hopefully we can mitigate all of that and get it to a nice historical facility that we're all proud of when we're done. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them anytime. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
And thank you for as well as for investing in that building. I know it was a passion project for a lot of the community to make sure and see that around. All right, any other public comments on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for private development with Bayless LLC for the amended agreement that is in front of you.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Motion and seconded and open for council discussion. Any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please. And Daryl, did yours come through?
I'm trying here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thumbs up. Oh, you can hear me now. Oh, awesome.
We can hear you now, so we got that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm good. Yes.
I think Kim's got your computer. She can do it for you.
All members voting aye,
try-
Mr. Mayor.
Trying
Thank you, Madam
to.
Clerk. All right, item number 3, public hearing on a proposal to undertake a public improvement project for the Union Road Culvert Replacement Project and to authorize acquisition of a private property for said project. Do we have motion to receive and file approved publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Any from the public? And it requires a voice vote, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, of this, we have staff comments from David Wicke.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight's public hearing is on property acquisition for the Union Road Culvert Replacement Project. So Cedar Falls is planning the reconstruction of the culvert on Union Road south of West 27th Street. Additionally, to the culvert project, that's the wrong slide, Denny. There should be a Union Road 1 exhibit. In addition to the culvert, we are extending the sanitary sewer. There's a sanitary interceptor that's close to the culvert, and we are extending that north up Union Road towards 27th Street. The project requires acquisition from three total properties, which include 3 temporary construction easements and 3 permanent easements. And that's what I have.
Okay. Do we have any public comments for this item tonight, please? Besides that. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion to resolution approving a public improvement project for the Union Road Culvert Replacement Project and to authorize acquisition of private property for said project.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please. Daryl, might need you to just thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm getting the official here. I work?
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 4, public hearing on the proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Katowski Drive Bridge Replacement Project. Do a motion to receive and file approved publication.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, and any discussion from council or any from the public? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, we have staff comments from Mr. Wiki.
Good evening once again, Mayor, Council. This public hearing is for the Katowski Drive Bridge Replacement Project. This project consists of replacement of the Katowski Bridge over the Black Hawk Creek with a new precast reinforced concrete double box culvert. Along with the box culvert will be new asphalt paving surface over the deck of the new box culvert. The total estimated construction cost for this project is $429,300. Projects will be funded by the Stormwater Fund, Local Option Sales Tax, and General Obligation Bond.
All right, thank you, David. Any public comments for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion and resolution approving and adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Katowski Drive Bridge Replacement Project.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none,
I
requires
do
a
have
roll.
one question for
Oh.
Mr. Wiki.
Yeah.
Mr. Wiki, this will be a road closure project, and is that correct?
The road will be required to be closed, and there'll be a detour route
Okay.
established.
How long would that project be detoured? Any estimation?
It's going to be probably a couple months at least.
Okay. It's a low impact, but there is some local traffic there that I've been asked about, but,
Right.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have the detour route established so motorists can get around.
Any changes to the road width-wise?
No, road remains the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments, questions for council? All right, seeing none, it requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 5, hearing on the proposed condemnation of property located at 818 West Searly Boulevard. Do we have a motion to receive and file written communications filed with City Clerk?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. We have staff comments today from Inspector, sorry, Jamie. Oh, excuse me, before we do that, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now move to staff comments thing.
Need just a minute, I had the wrong one up. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here to speak on the condemnation hearing for 818 West Searly Boulevard. Sorry, I had them in a different order, so I'm going to take just a minute to get myself organized here. Okay. 818 West Searly Boulevard. We held a condemnation inspection pursuant to the ordinance on July 9th, 2024. The condemnation committee consisted of council members Dunn, Habaker, and Chrisman, along with myself and Fire Chief Zlondak. In addition, at all three of the condemnations we'll be speaking about today, Stephanie Sheets and Adam Spray were also in attendance. So this inspection only happened from the right-of-way. I wanted to make that clear with the images that we have. We did not enter the building at all. After the inspection, council members determined that the property was a nuisance and requested that city staff bring it forward for a condemnation hearing. A little history on this property. To start with, there was a shed that was built without any permit. There were 3 notices sent regarding this shed since 2024. In addition to the notices talking about the shed, we also discussed the building maintenance issues. So 3 notices were also sent for that in 2024. Since 2021, there have been 6 noxious weeds and grass notices and 10 snow and ice notices. Part of the, with all of our notices that we've sent, we have not received any communication back from the property owner. After the condemnation committee requested that we move forward with the hearing, we set the hearing date. At that time, we did hear from a representative on behalf of the owner, and they said that they would get all of the items that we had listed in the condemnation notice completed by October 31st. Because our goal is to have compliance with the code, we decided to postpone the hearing. Since that time, we've had minimal changes to the building, and so that's why we're bringing it to you today. So this property, the one thing that has been changed a little bit since the initial inspection is the picture on the left that is from the July 9th inspection. The picture on the right is from just last Monday. You'll see that there has been some storage items. There's a lot of exterior storage on the property, but they did put it in a kind of more organized pile, although most of those items are not allowed to be stored on the exterior outside of an enclosed space per Chapter 15. This property has a handful of areas where the siding has either fallen off or is broken. There's wear and tear. One of the other items is you'll notice on these 2 pictures right above that double entrance, there's damage to the roof. And if you'll see on the sidewalk in front, there's a piece of the roof that had been flapping and kind of floating in the air for quite a while, and then just before our inspection in July, that piece of roof fell off, and it has been sitting where you see it in that picture since that time. This is the shed that I spoke about in the beginning that was not permitted. We did not have any review of the zoning ordinances or the building code. We do believe that it is out of compliance based on size and potential location. We have not been on site to measure anything, so this is just by a visual look at it that we believe it needs to be permitted, and it should be on a slab and footings. Oh, sorry. Also in that, you can see additional areas where the siding has been removed, either through weather or just wear and tear. These last 2 pictures are from the rear of the property, and there's a handful of issues. One is additional exterior storage that has not been addressed. And then you can see that there was previously a secondary means of egress when this was a rental property. It is not currently a registered rental. but rental properties are required to have two means of egress. At some point, the door was removed and a window was replaced. The materials around the door do not appear to be exterior grade materials, so there is some deterioration. And the stairs were removed, leaving an unsafe situation with that deck that's there. So with the condemnation ordinance 720A-15, it states that structures or existing equipment that are or hereafter become unsafe, insanitary, or deficient because of inadequate means of egress facilities, inadequate light or ventilation, or that constitute a fire hazard, or are otherwise dangerous to human life or the public welfare, or that are involved in illegal or improper occupancy or inadequate maintenance shall be deemed as an unsafe condition. Because of the inadequate maintenance and the egress issues, we are recommending that council finds that this is a nuisance or an unsafe structure, and that city council order abatement of the nuisance within 30 days. What we're requesting is that it is completely abated or a viable plan of action is submitted, and that deadline for that action plan to be completed by December 31st. If the owner fails to complete either option, the building official would be granted the ability to remove, correct, or abate the nuisance by demolition or removal as the code allows. To note what a viable plan would be is we are asking that all of this work be completed, and I've listed out the main items that we talked about earlier. So the exterior storage is removed and the properly disposed of, which includes any inoperable vehicles. Rear door, which was switched to a window, be properly installed and inspected. Rear second floor egress removed and properly patched back. If the owner intends to make this a rental, the deck is to be replaced along with the door and stairs. Missing and broken siding are repaired and replaced. Missing fascias replaced. Broken or missing soffit repaired and replaced and inspected. Roof is repaired or replaced, and shed is properly permitted and inspected. The shed may also be required to be placed on turned-down footings. And this concludes my presentation for 818 West Searly Boulevard.
Now move to property owner comments. So this property owner representative of the property owner can speak to this. Sorry, my comment. We'll move to the property owner comments. So the property owner or someone representing the property owner.
Yes, good evening. I'm Thomas Verholst. I'm an attorney with the Beecher Law Firm in Waterloo, representing Walter and Barbara DeCock, who are the property owners. I was in communications with Mr. Rogers, the city attorney, regarding what needs to be done, and was aware, of course, of the October 31st deadline, which I did provide to Mr. and Mrs. DeCock. Unfortunately, Mr. DeCock has some health issues that has made it difficult for him to comply with the deadline of October 31st. That being said, we saw the communications or the recommendations of the staff as far as what needs to be done, and a plan of action, hopefully to complete this by December 31st. Mrs. DeCock has informed me that she is in communications with a potential investor that will purchase the property, and so we would ask that this recommendation about what all needs to be done, that may be through Mr. Rogers, he can provide that to me, and I can provide that again to Mrs. DeCock, so through her negotiations with this potential investor, we can take care of these matters. Hopefully the investor will, if he purchases the property, knows about what needs to be done, and we can avoid all the expense of a condemnation. And so that is kind of where we stand. I think the recommendations, a lot of it was already outlined by Mr. Rogers when he communicated with me earlier and provided it to Mr. and Mrs. DeCock. And again, my discussions with them, it's been a difficult time for him because of his health condition to be able to do this. And so we want to work with the city and try to get this resolved in a hopefully good manner, and potentially with a new investor who can afford to get this and has the health to be able to take care of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgle.
Unless somebody had any questions, I don't know.
Any questions from council? Okay, thank you again. So then we will move to item D. So the first discussion is determination of whether the structure, excuse me, located at 818 West Searly Boulevard is unsafe and/or the property is otherwise a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances. So we'll be taking these in succession, item D, and then looking at the appropriate means of abatement. So the first item we'll be discussing, and Mr. Rogers, I might let you just give a little more technical explanation, but we'll be looking at that item first, if you could.
The reason these are segmented like this is if council determines that, in the negative, that the structure is unsafe or not a nuisance, we don't need to go any further. There'll be no further action in the condemnation. If council, on the other hand, decides that it is, then we'll move to the next step on a determination of the appropriate abatement. And the third step is merely formalizing those findings in a resolution. So motion, roll call vote on the resolution. And the resolution would reflect council's discussion here this evening.
And if I can clarify quick, so Mr. Virgil spoke to there's an investor interested in the property. So let's say in our discussion, there's discussion about, okay, if there's a potential opportunity to move the property to a new owner, have the issues addressed, I think that's a discussion for us is, would we still want to find this a nuisance and then put an abatement plan that accommodates for that, looks at that, or would we, and correct me, Attorney Rogers, if I'm off here, but would we look to, if we wanted to say, okay, you have a chance to do this without this, we would be voting this down on this first step?
Or there's a third way, and that is to find it a nuisance, order the abatement, which Attorney Verhulst has indicated we passed on to the purchaser. We don't know a time frame, though, but certainly I think the city's willing and happy to work with the owner to try to get this resolved.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open up to council discussion questions.
Mr. Mayor, question for Mr. Rogers. If the property were to change ownership, what, if any, distinction does that have on this timeline? Does it change anything, or is the abatement period still what we're discussing right now? If it were to change owners, does that change the timeline?
Council could, for instance, decide that kind of transaction takes a while. It may affect council's determination of the period for abatement. Could.
Thank you.
If you choose so.
And if during that time period, we could bring that back in one of the December meetings, updating the council on maybe what happened, so we could readjust some of those timelines.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Daryl.
I'm assuming if there's an accepted offer, that would then trigger this meeting that you speak of, Mr. Gaines? Or the new timeline would then start over? Or the new owner would then have the list to work off of? Because we got weather considerations, of course, and most of that work that we're seeing is exterior, so that's problematic.
That could all be in the consideration once we get to that point, if there's a viable owner and a closing date and all of those things.
Sure. An offer and an acceptance, basically, then that starts the process differently.
I think if I understand correctly, the process would still maintain, the dates would still be the same. It would just prompt maybe an update to council, and if we want to look at adjusting the timeline based on that change. But the timelines and everything we agree to in the abatement would still remain the same regardless of ownership of the property.
And we wouldn't even know the closing date at this point.
Yep.
So to rephrase, we're essentially voting on a date based on what we know today. Current ownership, we're speculating beyond that.
If you're asking me, that's a fair assessment.
Thank you.
I would say council can take all this into consideration, but what we know today is it sounds like the owner's hopeful of a sale.
Mr. Mayor? But first, we need to tackle 5D, correct?
Correct.
Determine whether or not it's a nuisance, and we're looking for a motion. I'd like to make that motion to declare, I guess, 818 West Searly Boulevard as unsafe, and or the property is otherwise a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion second. Did we already motion second? Okay, thank you for that. So yes, but that's been motion and seconded. So any other discussion on that item? All right, seeing none, this item requires a voice vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We'll now move to item D. Look for a motion to approve determination of the appropriate means of abatement, contingent upon approval. So just to check quick, Attorney Rogers, would we want to outline that motion before we actually approve it as a part of the motion, or do we motion second, discuss what the abatement is, and then that'll be part of the resolution?
Yeah, great question. Technically, we should have a motion on the floor to debate, and so it can be a generic motion that we can fashion around our discussion.
Mr. Mayor, can I point out one other thing? Mr. Schultz didn't vote on the last one, and he abstained. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So just for the record.
So I take it then there'll be an abstention the rest of the way out?
Correct.
Okay. We didn't realize that.
Thank you for catching that. So we're looking for a motion to determination of the appropriate means of abatement.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on that item?
I apologize if this, but just to reiterate or give me the information again, when did this instance start? When did this process start? I know we did the 3 times this year, 3 notifications without response. Is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Correct. We started on this specific nuisance at the beginning of 2024. There have been other cases, but I really only brought forth the ones that I was involved in to keep it clean with any information.
Okay. And I'm sorry, what month did it start this year?
I apologize. I believe it was February. I did not bring that information.
Okay. I'm just going to be real blunt. You know, I do love when we can save a house, especially an older house, but this, you know, we've had condemnation hearings before, and we have to think about the neighborhood around it. And oftentimes we have the folks, you know, here speaking, and I understand there's just different circumstances, but I'm not interested in, I would like to the nuisance to be gone for the betterment of the neighborhood, or I'm interested in the comments from the council, but I feel like we're just delaying the inevitable, and I feel like the neighborhood has already been, you know, anyone that's ever been on College Hill or drove past that, which it's right on the corner of College and Searly, this is not new. So I'd like to move forward with abatement.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I would agree. I think we should follow the staff recommendation of abating the nuisance and having that be fully completed within having the proper permits obtained and all of that. If that's something they want to abate the nuisances, following the staff recommended timeline. I think if they find someone who is interested in purchasing the property, I'm happy to hear those updates from staff and potentially consider that. But I think just with the way communication has gone in the past, I think we should move forward with this process as outlined by staff and then just consider updates. But I think we should have on the record that this is the plan, and we will take further action if no action is taken.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor. Ms. Castle, am I correct? So the initial inspection of this property was done in July, and the intent was that we were going to have a hearing shortly thereafter, and that's when we heard from the property owner's attorney. Is that correct?
Correct. We did the inspection in early July. It was supposed to be the first August meeting.
So the property owner would have been made aware of our concerns back in July.
Correct.
So we've now essentially given them from July until the end of December.
Correct.
Which is much longer than what we would normally give.
Yes, that'd be correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. And I misspoke. I guess I'm going, abatement means we're going to allow more time to fix. I'd like to move forward with destruction. I believe that's on here, right? We've given time, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm wanting to take the next step.
Well, so I think right now what we're discussing and what was kind of proposed was following staff's recommendation on giving that period, the 1 month time period from this date of the approval of this to submit a plan or till December 31st to enact that plan.
Did I, though, misunderstand whether it's either that or, isn't there an or there? It's either to the December 31st or,
We typically, on these condemnations, what we do is we give them 30 days to fix it. They have 30 days, but we understand that there are weather concerns, various items, so we do allow them to provide us a plan in that 30 days, and we're actually setting a deadline that that plan has to be fit to be completed by December 31st.
okay, thank you. I guess that's fine, I'm fine with that plan, but I guess what I'm trying to say here is, to me, there's been plenty of time with little to no action, and so that's my thoughts on this. I've been on this council for 4 or 5 years. We've had not many, but a few condemnation hearings, and I understand I'm all for working with people to keep them either in their home or the structure, in standing and in the community, but I feel like in those instances, or in different instances, we've had participation, and we don't seem to have that here. And that's frustrating for the folks who are residents of not only the College Hill neighborhood, but anyone who lives and is a part of that area.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Councilor Cruz.
Thank you. I think the steps outlined by Ms. Castle and requested by the attorney is adequate to address this and give a strong push, nudge, or shove towards the direction of fixing or ultimately selling it. And that's what's happened in other cases that we've had before us over the last several years that I've been involved with. So I think we're going down the right path here with the December 31st deadline to see action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And Attorney Rogers, correct me if I'm wrong, we currently, I would say, have a standing motion on the floor to approve looking at the abatement as recommended by staff.
Yes, because I heard the original motion, Kelly revisited, and I think she voiced some concerns about that, but ultimately I think I heard her say, and I would go along with the staff recommendation. Did I state that correctly?
You did.
Okay, because otherwise I was making sure we had that original motion right, and I was going to say if you wanted to represent an amendment to it, to eliminate some.
I think she self-amended as
Yeah,
she discussed.
I'm fine with the.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see what December 31st, I guess, brings, but.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, this requires a voice vote. So all those in favor of, let me just make sure, moving forward with the recommendation of a statement as staff has recommended it. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. And that was an abstention for Councilor Schultz. So move to item F, a resolution declaring that the structure located at 818 West Sealy Boulevard to be unsafe and/or the property to otherwise be a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances, and ordering the destruction and/or abatement by the owner by a certain date, and failing that by the city at the owner's cost, with those previous considerations of the timeline for abatement. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, the item requires a roll call vote, please.
Five voting aye and one abstention, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 6, hearing on the proposed condemnation of property located at 804 to 806 West Searly Boulevard. Do we have any written communications, Madam Clerk?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And we've got staff comments again from Jamie Castle.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So much of the information regarding the actual condemnation inspection remains the same from our last, from 8/18. So this property was inspected on July 9th. Again, only from the right-of-way. We did not enter the building. At that time, council members or the committee members did determine the property was a nuisance and requested city staff bring it forward for a condemnation hearing. So the nuisance history on this one is similar to the last, but the exterior storage violations, there were 2, one in 2018 and one in 2024. The 2018 one was given a citation and abated. The building and property maintenance, there was a violation in 2021 and one again this year. Noxious weeds and grass, there were 7 between 2018 and 2023. Snow and ice, there were 10 between 2020 and 2023. And then there was a rental suspension and a subsequent citation in 2021. That was for obtaining more than 15 landlord accountability points in a rolling 12-month calendar. So because these are ongoing issues and lack of response or compliance from the owner, staff has requested the condemnation committee, and again, the committee determined the property was in violation. The hearing date was set for August again, and we heard from a representative from the owner, and they said that they were going to comply. And again, we wanted to work with the owner, and so we postponed the hearing, and we did not see any change, and so we are here today for the hearing. Some of the violations that were found at this property, these are just the overview of the property, and I'll give you a couple closer looks of each items, but you'll see here on both of these photos, you can see multiple areas where the soffit is missing. There has been complaints, some anonymous complaints about animals entering and exiting these buildings, concerns from the neighbors. You'll see on the right-hand side, there is a boarded up window. Again, materials that were not designed for the exterior were used to cover that window. You cannot see it very well from these photos, I apologize, but there is a significant amount of trash and debris on those stairs that do block some of the exiting, and I do know that that has been there for several years. Some additional photos, these are of the foundation. Again, we did not enter the building, but from what I could see from the property right-of-way, we do believe that there are some structural concerns with that foundation, and it would require a review from a professional inside the building to determine the structural stability. You can also see additional areas in the left of the missing soffit and the missing fascia where you can see into the building. These are on the Olive Street side. There is, on the left-hand picture, there's at least one step there that has been broken since we did the suspension in 2021. At the time of the original condemnation inspection, there was quite a bit of overgrowth, and it did block the exit. That has been taken care of between weather and mowing in between. These are some additional pictures of windows that were replaced with smaller windows and then not utilizing the proper materials. There's also exterior storage. Since the condemnation inspection, there have been items added to the property. I know there's a microwave and some trash that were not in the original photos. These are a couple final ones of the other side of the building. There is, in addition to the building maintenance items, there is a inoperable vehicle. And then there are additional places where the soffit is missing and the chance of rodents and weather entering the building. So based on those findings and what the ordinance defines as an unsafe structure, we are recommending that the City Council declares 804-806 West Searly Boulevard a nuisance and an unsafe structure. And then we would like to move forward with the council ordering an abatement of the nuisance within 30 days or providing a viable plan. Again, if those dates aren't met, we're asking that we are given the authority to abate the nuisance through demolition. The viable plan for this one, it shall include all the work being completed by December 31st. The exterior storage is removed and properly disposed of. Boarded windows are replaced with either new windows or properly enclosed and inspected. Windows that were replaced with smaller windows than the original opening size must be properly framed back and siding installed and inspected. Missing and broken siding are repaired and replaced. Missing fascia is replaced. Broken and missing soffit is repaired or replaced and inspected. The foundation is reviewed for structural compliance, repaired and inspected. Overgrowth removed, and broken stairs are repaired and inspected. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jamie. And we will now move to property owner comments. Just name, please.
Yes, Thomas Verholst again for Barbara and Walter DeCock, who again are the owners. I just would echo what I already mentioned before as far as the previous 818 Searly property. It's the same situation, investor being looked into. One thing I noted during your comments when you were talking about 818 is, about the investor and being able to get it in and done by December 31st. Again, I would, first of all, recommend that we get those staff recommendation list again. Mr. Rogers can provide that to me so we can show it to the investor. And two, I think it will be important, and Mr. Rogers can probably address it to you a little bit, if we do have an investor, which my understanding from Mrs. DeCock, I should know within a week or 10 days. If we get that and get an offer and acceptance, just understand it does take a little time for the sale to go to the new investor to be able to have ownership to be able to do this, because you got to do an abstract continuation and those types of things. So that may pose a little bit of a problem to get it by December 31st, but I think that's something where you, the council, can address that with the new investor. And hopefully if you've got a new investor who obviously has the money and can do it, that hopefully will satisfy everybody. But I just wanted to mention that because I noted that during your discussions. I just know practically how long it takes to close a real estate deal, and it's not as something that you can just happen overnight because of the abstract and title considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Virgil, excuse me. Okay, we will now look for a motion and determination of whether the structure located at 804 to 806 West Searly Boulevard is unsafe and or the property is otherwise a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances. A motion to approve?
So move to declare structure located at
Second.
804 and 806.
Nuisance.
Yep.
So motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, it requires a voice vote. Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? And abstention? All right, that motion carries. That moves us to item E, determination of the appropriate means of abatement. So do we have a motion? And I'll word it, and someone can correct me. A motion to approve the abatement process as was recommended by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and open to any discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the representative for the property owner's comments on the timeline it may take for this property to close, but I do think it's worth noting that some of the deficiencies that were noted here date back 3 years. So I appreciate the comments, but I would certainly hope if we do have an investor that that update is brought to us in a pretty expedient fashion and that we really do hold them to that timeline or a pretty strict timeline thereafter. 3 years is just completely unacceptable.
Thank you, Counselor. Any discussion, comments, Council? Seeing none, again, the motion is to approve the abatement plan as presented by staff. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? And one abstention. So that motion carries. So move to item F, motion and resolution declaring that the structure located at 804 to 806 West Searly Boulevard to be unsafe and or the property to be otherwise be a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances and ordering the destruction and or abatement by the owner by a date certain and failing that by the city at the owner's cost again, based on the previous approvals for the abatement and nuisance.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded, and any discussion? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Five voting aye and one abstention, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion passes. Item number 7, a hearing on the proposed condemnation of property located at 2413 Olive Street. Do we have any written communications, Madam Clerk?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
You, and then we have staff comments again from Jamie Castle. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, much of the presentation repeats what you've heard on the previous two. Again, I want to state that this was inspected by the Condemnation Committee on July 9th. It was only inspected from the right-of-way. We did not enter the building. At that time, it was determined by council members that the property was a nuisance and requested city staff bring it forward for condemnation hearing. Again, the same thing occurred. Once the hearing date was set, we were contacted by their representative and asked to have an extension until October 31st. We did grant that. We postponed the hearing, and we are here today because changes were not made. Some nuisance history, materials in the right-of-way. There have been 5 of those between 2014 and 2019. Exterior storage in 2019, there was a citation and it was abated. Building and property maintenance, there was one in 2009 and a citation in 2019. Noxious weeds and grass, 4 between 2015 and 2023. Snow and ice, 8 between 2020 and 2023. Some of the violations that were found at this property, because it is a tight spot, we could really only see the front and one of the sides. So the biggest issues are the wear and tear and deterioration of the siding. And I want to note that the condition of this house is in the same condition as when we did the citation back in 2020 or 2019. There is what appears to be a downspout that is down. There's the wear and tear and need for painting and repair of the siding. We are again asking that City Council declare 2413 Olive Street a nuisance and an unsafe structure for the same reasons as the previous properties. We're asking that you order abatement for it to be done within 30 days or a viable plan submitted. And if the owner fails to meet either of these options, that we have the ability to abate the nuisance by demolition, and all costs are covered by the property owner. A viable plan for this one would mean that all exterior storage is removed and properly disposed of, including any inoperable vehicles, repair gutters and downspouts not properly connected, repair or replace siding as needed, repaint entire house, repair fascia and soffit where deteriorated or broken. And this concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Jamie. Any property owner comments?
Yes, again, on behalf of Walter and Barbara DeCock, I'm Thomas Verhulst, and I echo the same sentiments I gave as to the other properties, and again, request that as far as the staff recommendations as to what needs to get done, again, Mr. Rogers can forward that to me so that we can give that to the investor. Otherwise, I have nothing to add unless anybody had any questions.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. So item D, we'll look for a motion to approve determination of whether the structure located at 2413 Olive Street is unsafe and or the property is otherwise a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances. A motion to consider an ordinance or a nuisance.
So move.
And a second?
Second.
A motion and second, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
just wanted to point out some language that was just spoke regarding this. It was violations abated, but also a viable plan submitted, which would then change the timeline because the viable plan would be the new owner purchasing, going through escrow, closing. I mean, you could maybe get that done in 30 days, and that puts us mid-December. And it's not realistic to have a new investor fix everything, but they would have the plan there for us to make a decision on. And my understanding from other condemnations that we've had, then we decide if that plan is sufficient to abate everything and satisfy the city's concerns. So I guess I wanted to throw that out there because that's one option there, or component of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion on the item for determining the nuisance? All right, seeing none requires a voice vote, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And abstentions? So that motion passes 5 with 1 abstention. So move to item E, determination of the appropriate means of abatement. So do we have a motion to approve the abatement plan as presented by council, or excuse me, by staff?
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none also requires a voice vote, so all those in favor?
Aye.
And all
Aye.
opposed? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Daryl. All opposed?
You're good.
And abstentions? So that motion carries 5 with 1 abstention. Moves us to item number F, a resolution declaring that the structure located at 2413 Olive Street to be unsafe and/or the property to otherwise be a nuisance pursuant to the Cedar Falls Code of Ordinances, and ordering the destruction and/or abatement by the owner by a date certain, and failing that by the city at the owner's cost, per the previous discussions on the abatement period and nuisance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Five voting aye and 1 abstention, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move on to old business, and thank you everyone for the time on that. Move to old business, item number 8, pass ordinance number 3085, amending chapter 26 zoning and the code of ordinances relative to allowing accessory dwelling units in all zoning districts that allow single unit detached dwellings upon its third and final consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? And seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Four voting aye and 2 voting nay, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Move to item number 9, pass ordinance number 3086, amending ordinance number 1923, 2122, 2461, 2696, 2785, 2923, and 2953, providing that general property taxes no longer be divided on certain property located within the amended Cedar Falls Unified Highway 58 Corridor Urban Renewal Area upon its third and final consideration. A motion to approve.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 10, pass ordinance number 3087, granting a partial property tax exemption to Amazon.com Services, LLC, for a new industrial use warehouse facility constructed at 6417 Innovation Drive upon its second consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 11, pass ordinance number 3088, granting a partial property tax exemption to Cedar Falls Partners LLC for a new industrial use warehouse facility constructed at 6700 Innovation Drive upon its second consideration. Motion to approve.
So move.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 12, pass ordinance number 3089, granting a partial property tax exemption to McDonald Construction and Remodeling LLC for a new industrial use warehouse facility constructed at 1701 Railway upon its second consideration. Do a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That moves us to our consent calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests an item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items to be considered from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, look for a motion to approve items 13 through 16 of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and requires a voice vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Move to the resolution calendars. The following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that an item be considered separately. Are there any requests from council for items tonight? All right, seeing none, any from the public? All right, also seeing none, look for a motion to approve items 17 through 24 of the resolution calendar.
So moved.
Second.
And motion seconded, and any, well, I guess we don't do that. A roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Allow bills and claims. We have a motion to allow bills and claims for November 18th, 2024.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk, any council updates and or announcements tonight? All right, seeing none there. Any council, any press and referrals? We didn't have any written ones submitted. Also seeing none there. We will now move to executive session. We'll motion to. So executive session to discuss property acquisition per Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. And just to clarify, there are two items we'll be discussing tonight. Do we have motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? And any discussion from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Oh, shoot, I lost my tab. I'm a yes.
You made it all the way to the
I
last
made
vote.
it all the way.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The motion carries. So we'll now adjourn to executive session. We will come back here afterwards to adjourn the meeting, but there will be no further business discussed. So you're welcome to stick around and watch that exciting adjournment. Otherwise, thanks everyone for your time tonight, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.